Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for coming. My name is Jana Weiss. I'm a student life coordinator for Global Online. And thank you for coming today and learning all about effective communication with professors. We have a wonderful licensed counselor with us today, Tavia, and she is going to talk to you all about these wonderful communication skills and how to really speak with your professors. Welcome, Tavia.
Good morning, and thank you so very much for having me on this beautiful Thursday. So, if you want to share your camera just for a moment to wave, that will be acceptable and welcomed, and then you can turn it right back off just to see that I'm talking to some humans, not all robots. And then you can just turn it off if you choose to. But we're gonna get started. The title of this presentation is Effective Communication with Your Instructors or with Your Professors. One moment, let me pull something up here. Alrighty, so the aim or the objectives for today is to pretty much clarify what the challenge is that many individuals and students face and to come up with some sense of an action plan or a concise plan and carve out where we have some negative behavior patterns and then try to complete the semester strong and prosper in our academics. We're talking about my communication skills with my instructors. I want to get your input as well, but if you don't have any, it's okay.
Okay.
If there is something specifically that you want to add, please put it in the chat. Why do I need to communicate with my professors? Students need to communicate with their college professors for many important reasons that pretty much directly impact that pretty much directly impact your academic success as well as your personal growth. This is not just for academics.
I'm not seeing anything in the chat.
This is not just for academics, but it also can be for the workplace. So, one, we have to clarify the course information. Oftentimes, professors can explain difficult concepts and provide examples and give you some challenging assignments, right? And so having clear communication can ensure that you understand your expectations and as well as understand the content that is being provided. So that's one reason why you need to communicate with your professor. Also, engaging with your professors allow you to receive some form of feedback, whether it's constructive or negative, but some form of feedback on your work, right? Which would help you improve and grow academically. So receiving feedback is necessary, even if you're at your employment, right? Most jobs do have some sense of an evaluation that you have to attend or go through on a yearly basis. Here at HCC, we call it a performance plan. So you want to make sure that you receive feedback not only from your professors, but from the person that you answer to at your job, right? So receiving feedback is necessary. Building relationships within your college experience will go a very, very long way. You may need to get a letter of recommendation, or perhaps your instructors can give mentorship opportunities or even some career guidance. And so establishing a professional relationship can lead towards having long lasting impacts on your professional and as well as personal growth. I can remember I've graduated more than 20 something years, but I still keep in contact with my professors. I complete several grants and things of that nature, and letter of recommendations are still being provided even after 20 years that I've passed. So if you build a relationship and maintain it, it will last. Demonstrating engagement. You have to have active communication, and it shows that you are invested in your education, right? Professors often notice and more likely appreciate students who participate and ask very thoughtful questions. There's no such thing as a dumb question. Why? Because you're learning, you're in the place to learn. So obviously, you need to inquire. What does this mean? Can you explain it a different way? You'll be very surprised that someone else in the classroom can benefit from your questions, right? Accessing support. Professors can connect you to resources such as tutoring or any type of academic accommodations. If you have, say, a disability, or you are pregnant, or you're experiencing domestic violence, those um, concerns do come with supportive services such as accommodations. So your professors can connect you with these resources. They can also connect you with additional resources such as research opportunities. They are the very first point of contact. Oftentimes, I hear students as a counselor will say, "Oh, let me call you first." And I'm having a problem within my classroom with my assignment. Let me call you first. And during that interaction, I circle back and say, "Hey, did you get in contact with your professor?" Okay. Your professor is the person who grades your assignment. So you need to communicate with your professor first. Navigating challenges, lives, right? I know that's probably incorrect English, but life happens. So whether we are facing some sense of a personal issue, a health concern, or academic struggle, we all experience some sense of trial or triple or problem throughout the year, right? Um, the year just started, and I can probably poll this group, and at least one person is going to say, "Hey, I experienced some form of a setback or some form of a struggle," right? And so communicating with your professors in an early form can lead to understanding and some sense of a flexibility with deadlines and requirements. So, why are you not communicating with your professor? We understand that communicating is important. We just identified a whole list of the reason why. But why are students not communicating? Students often avoid communicating with college professors for a variety of reasons, whether it's personal, social, or even just the institutional setbacks that are built in, right? And based on some insights from educators and me doing some research, here are some of the common barriers that I found. And the number one would be the intimidation or the fear of judgment. Many students feel intimidated by the professors, especially in a large setting or where the professor seems unapproachable, right? They may fear being judged or appear to be stupid for asking questions. And so students may worry that asking a question could lead to negative consequences. Um, Such as being denied an extension or being perceived as trying to haggle for grades. I met with a student on yesterday, and the student is on academic probation, which means that their GPA is below a 2.0. And I asked, "What happened? What were some of the challenges that you faced in your previous semester?" And she said, "I didn't ask for help because I knew that my instructor would not provide it." And so while we talked, I realized that it was a fear, it was anxiety, but not that she had evidence because there was nothing to show that the professor was not going to help or not going to provide aid, but it was just a mere of fear, right? And so, number two is the lack of confidence or just simply being prepared. Students may not know what to ask for or even feel unsure how to articulate the concerns. And this can lack the clarity that can prevent from initiating contact, right? I don't know what to say. I'm just confused and I don't know what to say, right? Well, could you just say that? Hey, professor, I'm very confused on this concept and I really don't know what to do, right? Number three, time and somewhat of scheduling conflicts. Every professor is required, mandatory, expected to have office hours. And sometimes these office hours do not align with the students' schedules, especially if students are navigating work and family and responsibilities of having multiple classes. So even when the professors are available, the students may find struggle with connecting. And I can see this as a problem, and I can also see it as an excuse um, because we all have access. If you're at school, you have access to an HCC email address. So no matter if it's 2 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you should be able to send a message, not expect for them to respond at 2 o'clock in the morning, right? But you should be able to send a message and say, hey, let's coordinate a time to meet. Number four, the perceived professor attitude. Students are less likely to seek help if they believe that the professor are not interested or maybe dismissive. Professor's personality and the communication style can significantly influence the student's engagement. And so just like when you were in grade school, you know, like, okay, this professor, this teacher is a no nonsense teacher, versus the substitute. You might can get a little more, you might get a little lax with the substitute, but the actual teacher is a little bit more stern. So some professors can come off as disinterested, right? And that can also influence your engagement. Another reason why students may not communicate with the professors is because they're unfamiliar with the academic norms. Some students, especially first generation college students, may not be aware of how to interact professionally, may not know the value, or may not understand the importance of how to get in contact during office hours or to initiate conversations, right? May never been taught how to host a meeting or how to initiate an academic conversation, right? And then the last one is the lack of motivation. Some students may admit or should admit to procrastination or just sheer laziness, and may realize that the benefits of reaching out but fail to do it, or when they do reach out, it's too late. So if you're reaching out to your instructor the last week of class and saying, hey, I experienced some problems before midterm, that's too late. A lot of time has passed. So there's really nothing that can be done at that point, right? So that was the lack of motivation or the lack of initiating a conversation. So we covered why we need to, we covered why some individuals don't. Let's create a plan. Okay, let's create a plan. So allow me to paint the picture. Close your eyes if you need to close your eyes. Don't get so comfortable where you're about to fall asleep, but you're in a large lecture classroom. Right? The course is Introduction to Biology Psychology, and it's taught by Dr. Langston. And Dr. Langston is a brilliant but stern professor. And Dr. Langston is known for her high expectations and her no nonsense attitude. The midterm is approaching, and the class, or some students in the class, are feeling the pressure. Everybody got it? Thumbs up if you got it. Okay, thank you, Brianna. Thumbs up. Anyone else? Everybody got okay. So we only have 4 people who got that. Okay, we got more than 40 on, so hopefully you guys are with me. Alrighty. Okay. So the student name is Jordan. They're a sophomore, and they are actually majoring in psychology. The student struggles with social anxiety and has had a recent personal crisis. Let's just say a family emergency. They've missed 2 classes and they are behind in this midterm review. Jordan feels intimidated by Dr. Langston, who rarely smiles and is very direct in the communication. But Jordan needs an extension or some sense of support, but fears that they'll be dismissed or judged. Okay. Remember, Dr. Langston is highly respected in the department. This professor values being on time, having a sense of academic standard, being independent. She has a reputation for being tough but fair. And so she offers office hours, but expects students to come prepared and be somewhat concise. Okay. So this is a multi-layered problem here. So let's identify layer number 1. Jordan must decide whether to reach out or try to manage it alone. They feel overwhelmed and they feel rejected. Okay. So tell me in the chat, or you can put your hand up and be unmuted, but I have some questions for you. What do you think are Jordan options? Okay, at this point, what do you think are some options for Jordan? What do you think are some of the risks if Jordan does not communicate? Right? How can Jordan manage their anxiety before initiating any sense of contact? So looking for some engagement here. So what are Jordan's options? What are the risks of not communicating? And how can Jordan maintain their anxiety before initiating contact?
In the chat, they have reach out via email, talk to the professor in person before or after class, reach out to email, speak to the professor, speak to him during office hours, um, reach out, try going to counselor, and then somebody had their hand up. Is it Michaela?
Yes, I am so sorry. I'm still trying to figure out how to work Microsoft. I'm so sorry. I was gonna say that because my anxiety, it was the fear rejection part. I'm sorry. If he's really scared or don't really know how to approach the professor, would talking to the counselor be a good idea to see how he would go about it, or like, is that too much? Sorry, I know that's a question within a question. I'm sorry.
You do not have to apologize. I'm not even accepting the apology. We're in a conversation, so let's
Thank
have
you.
you're welcome. Let's have a little chat about that. I mentioned early on, like, don't call the counselor first, talk to your professor. But Michaela brought up a good point, as well as the slide. This person has anxiety. So role playing how to bring this up would help or could help the student. So that's a good point.
Thank you. Sorry.
You're welcome. No apology. Instead of saying sorry, say thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. And that's another thing. Like when having conversations with a counselor, they can notice and pick up things. Oftentimes we may say we're sorry, and it be out of nervousness, right? We may say, oh, I'm sorry for X, Y, and Z. Versus saying, thank you for understanding. Thank you for taking the time to help me, right? Thank you for catching my mistake, right? Thank you for acknowledging my mistake. So I very rarely say I'm sorry unless I hurt you or I offended you, but I'm not going to say sorry for being human. So that's just a tip, okay? So as adults, you know when you offended someone, you know when you hurt someone, right? But for, let's say, making a mistake, I'm not gonna say sorry. Thank you for catching that I made that mistake. All right, let's go back to this multi-layered point here. Let me bring this back up. Okay, so layer number 2. Jordan considers emailing, and someone said that, like emailing versus just visiting the office hours. So let me throw some questions out here. What are some of the pros and cons of emailing versus actually going to the office hours? Um, how can Jordan craft like a respectful and clear message in the email if they choose to email? What tone or structure should the email have? So let's have some conversation about that. I'll repeat the questions. What are the pros and cons of each of the methods? How can Jordan craft like a respectful and clear message, as well as what's the tone or the structure should the email have?
So there's a lot of stuff in the chat. Be professional and straight to the point while being considerate. Emails give you time to think about what you want to say to the professor. Sometimes emails are best if you have anxiety. Email is adaptable to your personal schedule. It's good for short questions, but office hours to me for more information on subject. Should be respectful, should speak in a respectful and professional tone. Office hours allow for less confusion and email stress. The professor may not get back to you fast enough, make too long to get a reply. A person is more likely to get all their questions out versus speaking to them in person due to having anxiety. Common would be the person would still never face anxiety, fear head on. Emailing is good because of how easy it is to communicate.
Okay, so there's a lot of great feedback, and there is no wrong answer in what you all contribute. So thank you so very much. Let me add to that some points that was made that I want to put some emphasis on. When you email, yes, you're not going to get an immediate response. So let's say that midterm is on Friday, right? And you email them on Wednesday. You may not get a response until Friday. And by that point, the midterm is present, right? Also, Communication, spelling, grammar. We have to remember that Dr. Langston is a very stern professor, right? So if you're using run-on sentences, if you're not having sentence structure, that also could be like, I don't understand. The professor can say, I don't understand what you're saying. Can you please clarify? Because they're not going to make puzzle pieces to try to understand what you're saying, right? Every single day that I have worked here at HTC, I get an email and say, hey, can you do 1, 2, 3? And I respond, who are you? What's your name? What's your student email? What's your student account? Right? So those are small things. Like, I can't help you if I don't know if I'm talking to you as a student or I'm talking to just a person who's not an HCC student, right? One other person mentioned that email is for, I think they used the word straight up questions, where conversation is better. Could you blend the two? Could you make notes and then read from that in the conversation, or read some points in the conversation, right? Or could you email and say, can we schedule a time to meet, right? Can we blend the two, or do it have to be one or the other? Okay, so let's go on to another layer. So, like many people said, Jordan says, you know what? I am going to email. Forget contacting. I'm going to email. So that is the preferred method that they considered. All right. So here's some other questions. What should Jordan include to explain the situation without oversharing? How can Jordan express accountability and the willingness to catch up? Because you remember, they are behind in some of their learnings. So how can they express accountability and like, I need to catch up? And then the last, how can they respectfully request some support? Okay, so let's have a conversation. Let's try to prepare this email for Jordan. And I'm going to quickly go through some of these so that we can make sure that we still have time to have a conversation. So it says subject line should include name, course, the CRN, and a brief description. All of that in the subject line, like maybe just the description, like a short description, like a 5-word. But the body should include everything that you said. I agree. Communication is a good idea. Talking to the professor respectfully at their office hour would be the right timing. Honestly, I prefer to schedule an appointment to see the professor. Email allows me to think of everything I need to communicate. Sometimes if you're talking in person, you may forget to mention some important things. Okay. So Jordan, let's say Jordan have requested to meet, right? And let's get to the next layer. And the professor responds with a short but a very formal message. Jordan, comma. I appreciate your message. I expect students to manage their time responsibly. However, I can offer a brief meeting during my office hours tomorrow. Please come prepared, period. Okay, so that was the response from the professor. Now, if I read it a different way, the tone could be different, right? I kind of read that a little stern, but if I read it with a little bit more enthused, then it could sound different. So tone does matter of how you interpret. So talking about this, how do you think Jordan interpret this message? And what do you think that Jordan needs to bring to this meeting tomorrow? And how can Jordan stay calm and focused during the conversation?
Brianna?
So I would definitely say he should prepare in the morning or the night before by getting like a good rest, because sometimes sleep can affect our anxiety.
Absolutely.
Having a good meal or breakfast and just gathering everything that he can prove or to show to his professor that, he's been going through some things, and trying to reach his, what's the end goal? What does he want to come out of this meeting or this conversation with his professor? Um, and just kind of making sure he stays breathing, he stays focused, and doesn't let his anxiety overthrow his conversation and his emotions. And getting to an understanding with his professor and what he can fix, using his schedule and his time wisely. Because that's what his professor said, is ultimately making use of your time wisely.
What you said was like chef kiss. Because breathing is so important naturally, right? We breathe because we exist. But when individuals with anxiety or individuals who are very nervous or very worried, their breath changes, right? And so making sure that they are intentionally breathing, not just breathing to survive, but intentionally breathing is important. Writing down some questions, like someone said, writing down questions and concerns is important because the instructor want them to come prepared. So for me, I would practice my communication skills if I had anxiety. All of these are great points. So the meeting is here. I don't know why I'm getting nervous for Jordan. I don't know why. And this is just an example. But Jordan attends the office hours and Dr. Langston is brief and she's direct. So at this point, how can Jordan follow up after the meeting to show like appreciation and accountability? What strategies, can help Jordan stay grounded moving forward? Someone said deep breathing. How can Jordan communicate like moving forward? So they attended the meeting. The meeting was okay. It was okay, but it was brief and it was direct. So my question is, how can Jordan follow up after the meeting to show appreciation and accountability?
Send a thank you email.
Mm-hmm.
And Jordan should know that the professor is there to help with his academic, not judge him. He should try to calm himself before his meeting with his professor to provide a clear, concise explanation. Send an email or maybe next class after it's over, go over and thank them again with a thank you email and progress with this work, asking more questions in class.
All of these are really great. Be thankful at the end of the meeting. Absolutely. All of these are great recommendations. One thing that I would change differently, if you've ever been in a job where, let's say you work at 10 and you get off at 5, right? And someone calls or someone comes into the store at 4:58. And then they start flipping stuff and start looking, like, or they come in and they order like a whole bunch of food at 4:58 and the restaurant closes at 5. How tasty will that meal be? Like, how rushed will your food be? How great or exceptional of customer service will you get from the person, right? So, me personally, this is not, I'm taking my counselor hat off, just talking to you as a person. Me personally, I don't go to restaurants like 5-10 minutes before closing. Like, I don't go places right before closing because I understand these people want to get off, right? And so I would treat the exact same situation to the professor. The professor is there to teach you a class between this time and that time. You do not know if they have another class right after or if they have a personal meeting. So trying to talk to a professor after class or before class that it's not scheduled, you may get rushed, right? So you may want to ask, hey, do you have time? Before you start saying, oh, da, 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 do you have time for us to meet after class or before class? Try to schedule. Let me know your thoughts. You think it's wrong? You think it's right? Like, let me know your thoughts in the comment. Some things don't always have to be talked about in office hours, but having scheduled times holds you as well as the other person accountable. Also, another thing that I want to put emphasis on, the use of ChatGPT is here and it's here to stay. But ChatGPT is, the communication is not as human as what we want it to. So you may say, hey, send an email to my professor, but the word language, it doesn't appear that you even wrote it. So if you're gonna use ChatGPT, make sure that you make a lot of changes and it use your language, not a robot language. If you do not know how to spell, um, I'll just say an easy word like listen, right? If you don't know how to spell listen, but now you are spelling adventure, right? It's like, okay, hold on. Did this person write this? This doesn't show that they're genuine. So want to make sure that if you're using ChatGPT or you're using some sense of an AI, that you use it to make it appropriate for you. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. Thumbs up if it do. Okay. Okay, so final tips and takeaway. If you miss a deadline, you feel overwhelmed by the state of this semester, you feel exhausted, it's best not to blame your professors. That's not going to get you far. They didn't sign you up for the 18 hours or for the 8 hours or for the 7 hours, but they didn't make you work full time. They didn't make you stay out late and have happy hour with friends. They didn't make the assignments harder just for you. So we want to make sure that one, we know how to find the syllabus. We know what's in the syllabus. The syllabus may be 7 pages. If you haven't taken the time to read your syllabus, read it today in each of your classes. I guarantee you will learn something new. You will learn something about the supports that you can receive, whether it's free counseling, whether it's free tutoring. You will learn something new with reading that syllabus. Okay? Match your assignments with your personal calendar or your alarm. It's not best to lie, especially when it comes to the health of your family members. Don't kill off some people that they're still here. I think everyone knows what I mean. Like, oh, my such and such died, right? And they're still here. Like, let's not do that. Let's not, I know technology is a problem for many people. Technology is so unrealistic at times, and so it works when it want to work and it don't. But there's times where we blame technology on everything, right? Oh, I couldn't get into the meeting. Well, we signed in late. Or we're trying to use our cell phone to log into a class while driving or while busy. You didn't initiate a class to say, hey, I want to, just because class is anytime you can sign in anywhere, anytime, doesn't mean that you need to. Right? So we have to take responsibility, must be respectful of the professor, benefit from the office hours, draft clear emails. If you're going to send an email, put it in a spell check. I have to do that myself. And I've been sending emails very long, right? Send an email and then wait for a response. Wait at least, I would say, somewhere in the 30-something hour, right? If you have not received a response, it's your responsibility to circle back, to send another email as a follow-up. Sometimes professors overlook emails. Sometimes you overlook emails. Sometimes you overlook DMs, text messages, right? It just goes down in the thread, right? So give grace. Hey, I am circling back. I'm following up. I haven't heard anything, Professor Langston. I sent you an email on Monday. Today is Wednesday. I look forward to your response. Now, if today is now Friday and they haven't responded, at that point, you do need to take it to another level, right? You do need to reach out to their supervisor, right? Because at this point, you've done your due diligence. But I hear oftentimes students say, oh, I emailed the professor and they never emailed me back. I said, did you email them back? No. Okay. Well, I see both parties. Because maybe that professor didn't get your email. Maybe you sent it to the wrong email. That happens. Or maybe the professor made a mistake and deleted it, right? In the email, introduce yourself. Say your name. My name is, my student ID is. That is standard in every single email that you send at HCC. Be very specific and come prepared. Do not email a professor and say, hey, I have a question. What's your question? Right. I was on, I think it was like Instagram Live a couple of days ago. And one person, it was a celebrity, and the person was like, okay, it's Q&A time. And the person says, I have a question. And the celebrity said, well, you missed your point. Next person. Right. So you missed the opportunity because you used that time to say, I have a question. Just go ahead on and ask the question. Right. Seek help early. Discuss your grade and discuss your concerns very early, like the same day or the next day. If you're dealing with something today, you need to email your professor today or Friday at the latest. Okay. So this is an opportunity to have just a conversation. I want to hear from you. What are some things that you took away? What are some things that you disagreed with? Some things that you agreed with? Kind of want to hear from you.
So before this meeting, I would have thought that I would have reached out to a counselor first rather than my professor. But you made it important on why it's necessary to reach out to your professor first before going to a counselor. just because your professor is the one, grading your work, you're in their class, and they eventually are gonna find out what's going on. But it's important to be transparent with them first and then receive the help that you need. And even they can kind of give you those resources as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Michaela?
Yes. I know this may sound a little silly, but it was the follow-up email because honestly, I would expect all professors or all just the staff in general just to check their email or, you know, I wouldn't expect like the scenarios where, hey, they could have accidentally deleted an email or looked over it, or on my end, you could have typed in the wrong first name or anything. So I would say that. Thank you, because I was going to say sorry. So thank you.
You're welcome. You're learning. You're welcome. Um, to speak to that, I have an Android, so all of you iPhone haters, stay away. Okay. But sometimes I make a mistake and just swipe over and I will delete a text and I'm like, oh goodness. And once I delete a text on how I have my phone, I can't retrieve it. Like I can't go back and retrieve it because it's deleted. And so I'm like, well, I know they text me. So I might text back. Sometimes I say, okay, I'm gonna text back and forget. So as humans, we gotta give each other grace. Um, hey, I called you. Not like I called you and you didn't answer my phone, da 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 da. But like I called. Is everything okay? I just want to circle back. So if you don't hear from a professor, just circle back. That's the new term. I circle back with my supervisor sometimes. Like I'm circling back on my vacation. The flight is
And
booked. I'm circling back on the vacation.
Can I also
and to
ask one more? I am so sorry.
Oh,
I'm
no, you're
sorry.
fine. And to add to that, just like you said, giving your professors grace. Gratefully, I have some great professors this term, this semester, and they have made it very clear, like, hey, we're human too. Sometimes we have stuff going on. We have to take a break, and we might not always get back to your email instantly. And what you said with the follow-up email is a reminder for them as well, like, hey, I got to get back on track too, because I have things to do that might interfere with my students. And so giving them grace is like a really, really big thing for me. And, just getting that grace in return when it comes to, just helping each other and keeping each other accountable for stuff.
Okay. Any other questions before we move to the last slide? What's the average grace period before following up? So that's a twofold question. A twofold answer. One, it depends on the urgency of the request, right? Um, and then two, I think on average it could be anywhere from 2 to 3 days, right? But it also depends on the urgency.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, one of my takeaways is that it is best to speak up even if you are nervous. It is still hard if you have anxiety, but if I get into the habit of doing it, it will become easier. Yep. It was helpful knowing we can use AI for emails to explain what we want to convey to the professors. Thank you. You're more than welcome. Yes, anxiety is a cycle, right? And short term, it provides great relief. Like, whew, I didn't have to do the presentation. But long term, it creates even more anxiety because eventually you have to do the presentation, right? So it's a cycle. Short term, relief. Long term, it's problematic. Okay. So there's some individuals that are here because of their slip requirements. Slip means that you are on probation or suspension because your GPA is below a 2.0. And if you're specifically here for me, I want to get some feedback. So send me an email, title the email as success. Make sure that in the body you put your first, your last name, your student number, as well as your contact. And what's one intention that you plan to activate after you leave? Okay. I want to hear from you. Just to say hi. I respond to all emails. I have an automatic out of office on my email saying like, hey, it takes sometimes 24 to 48 hours to respond. So if you get that message, that meant you sent it. Because sometimes people say, I sent you an email, but I didn't get a response. My emails have an automatic response, but I will send you a personalized email as well. If you're here for another slip follow-up you're not on my caseload or you don't have, just make sure that you get in contact with your specific counselor. You should have their first and last name or their email. And so just follow up with that particular counselor. But it was a pleasure to spend this 55 minutes with you. I'm gonna hand it back over to my colleague to see if there's any announcements or anything else.
So thank you for coming, everybody. And I hope to see you at one of our next events. Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.
Thank you, Tavia. This was wonderful.